question asked by aspiring and experienced developers alike is, should I comment my code? This discussion typically stirs up a lively debate of developers, and in fact, when I posted this, someone posted it on the Hacker News site and it became so popular it made it to the Hacker News homepage, which is the first time I've ever had one of my blogs make it to that homepage. That post had hundreds of comments and messages and things coming to me and were placed on the site. Some of them were supportive, some of them not so supportive. So whether your opinion is on one side or the other, it's usually going to be a pretty strong opinion on it. So this is what I've seen through my own development experience. I'm not going to say that this is the only way to do it, but I am going to say that this is a way that I've personally found it to be the most effective approach when it comes to commenting code, when the right time to do it and when it shouldn't be done. I don't think personally that the question has a right or wrong answer. Instead, I think the answer is that it simply depends on the situation. In this guide, I want to take a practical look at when code comments can be beneficial, along with when comments can cause issues. I remember back when I learned how to code. A common theme I used was that I thought that all of my code should be commented. This seemed like a good idea at first, and in a perfect world, code comments would be beneficial. However, we don't live in a perfect world whatsoever. Let's jump into a time machine and look back at how I might have commented a method years ago. If you run this code, you'll see that it all works properly. Since the one constant rule of software development is that requirements change, let's imagine that our program needs to be updated to also print out the player's position. In this code, I've updated the method so that it takes in a key value hash and prints out the player, lineup, number, and position. This works properly when I pass in a hash argument. But did you notice something? I didn't update my comments, and the instructions are still calling for an array. If I need to work with this method in the future, and I reference my comments and I pass in an array, the program no longer works properly. So what's the main problem with code comments? The issue comes down to the fact that they are fragile and can't be trusted. Comments, by their nature, are static. This means that you could completely change the behavior of a method, and if you don't update the comments, they'll be rendered useless. When I take on a legacy application and I look at the comments, it's rare that they're still applicable to the current system. And after this post made it onto Hacker News, one of the constant comments that I kept seeing from people was that comments need to be there, and if they're not, then the developer's not doing their job. That may be all well and good. However, through the years, I've started to slowly stop commenting on my behavior-based code, such as classes or methods, and instead, I focused on improving the names that I've given certain parts of my program. I've discovered that if I name a code component properly, comments are no longer needed. DHH, the creator of the Ruby on Rails framework, had this to say about the importance of naming. One of the real delights of programming is picking great variable, method, and class names. But an even greater treat is when you can name pairs or even whole narratives that fit just right. In the show notes, I posted a guide that he wrote where he gives a great story on a specific time that he was intentional in regard to naming a method. With all of the bashing that I've done in regards to code comments, you may be wondering, is there ever a time when commenting is beneficial? And the answer is yes. I don't like to add comments to code in order to explain the functionality or the behavior, because I found that that changes on a regular basis. However, I have found a few ways to incorporate comments that have proven to be helpful. First and foremost, I'll utilize code comments for code organization purposes. I've discovered that comments can be helpful for large code files, such as CSS styles. I'll add comments such as, these are where my nav headers are, or anything like that. These type of comments let me quickly know where a specific set of styles can be found. And because these types of comments don't give instructions or describe behavior, they're far less likely to get outdated. Next, I've discovered that automated comments can be helpful for referential purposes. For example, the annotate Ruby gem will automatically create and update comments in code files that supply database information and that kind of related material. When I work on a Rails app, I'm constantly referencing the database schema file to ensure that I'm selecting the correct column names. The annotate gem automatically processes all of the different migrations I have and the schema file, and it adds comments for those and it updates them in the model files and a few other files so that I can reference them and not have to switch back between files. When it comes to working with code comments, automated tools like this will help to update the comments so that they're beneficial not just when the comment got written, but also as the program changes. In summary, code comments can definitely lead to a number of negative issues with programs. Comments are fragile, can be misleading, and perform a poor job of explaining application behavior. A better choice is to improve at method naming so that your code explains itself. After publishing the guide originally, a developer named Chris Gregory pointed out a great quote from Robert, also called Uncle Bob Martin, who said that every comment you write is a failure to express yourself well in code.